Blast from the Past. We are back with our Android Week, our show about, wait for it, this is our Android Week with Alan Furstenberg in New York, Bruce Turner in Lynchburg, Virginia, Duke Carrico in Kingsport, Tennessee, Kadesh Kalut in Newport Beach, California, and Pam Adger in Minifig, California. This is our Android Week. Good to have you with us. I am Dan McDermott, the host, and ironically so because I know the least about this topic compared to our panel, which consists of Alan Furstenberg and Kadesh Kalut, who's on the road tonight. I'm still kind of in vacation mode, thus the hoodie. So there. Okay, so our first topic tonight is Kodak is coming out with, what in the hell? Okay, sorry. I don't know what's going on. Our first story, yeah, I don't. Oh my God, my Nexus 7. Oh my God, how do I stop
Well, Dan's
it?
Nexus 7 is freaking out. I've just muted him so that nobody else who may be watching this is confused. Work. Dan can unmute himself when he's done.
Okay, so, and I can't.
So the first story we have tonight is that Kodak, of all companies, is going to be releasing initially a phone and eventually a tablet and a camera. So hopefully the phone will be unveiled at CES. And the notable features about this are that it's, I don't know, it's a phone from Kodak. Sounds exciting, huh? No, seriously, I think what they said was that one of the notable features is its integration with print services, which means that, Kodak is still trying to get you to print stuff. I don't know. You heard anything about this, Kadesh? Any thoughts? Any thoughts, anyone? Dan, you have any thoughts on this? You're still muted.
Okay, well,
You're still muted, Dan.
Okay, so...
yeah, it's like we haven't run one of these in months, is it?
Okay,
I don't have any thoughts on this.
Okay, so disaster looms. Okay, so just to clarify, Alan, muting me doesn't do anything because my audio is not through the Hangout to them, but
oops,
it only mutes it to you. So anyway, my thoughts on this are, I don't know if this is, they're working with a partner. So is this actually Kodak is making a phone, or someone's making a phone with the Kodak name, right? They're licensing their brand. But I did see the word high end. So I would, while yet another low end competitor into the Android marketplace would seem stupid, because then it's just a race for the lowest price point. But if they are going to try to do what HTC One and other phones have tried to do and enter the higher end market to give Apple a run for their money, hardware wise, I would very much welcome that. I'd like to see more high end Android phones. But looking at their printers, their big claim to fame was that the printers were the lowest cost inkjets because they used a pigment rather than an ink. At least that's what they said. Maybe that was just an excuse not to put how many milliliters of ink were on the box. But I had one and it was quite inexpensive. When they came out, it was $10 for black and $15 for color cartridges. And they went quite a ways. The hardware was cheap, plasticky. But I think the central theme in my mind would be if they're going to go for the higher end or the upper mid-level end, then I think that would be a welcome addition. What do you think?
I don't know. I honestly don't see that there's much space in this market for them to do much. If a high-end phone, nobody cares. There are about 2 companies that can get away with making a high-end phone these days. And unless there's some compelling high-end quality feature to go along with it, I don't see how it's going to go anywhere.
And that's the thing is that these companies, I don't see what more they can add to the phone to make it better than what's already out there at this point, whether it's Kodak or whoever. Like I don't know what they're going to do next.
Yeah, I mean, if there was something, great, fine, but Samsung has trouble selling high-end phones these days. Apple has trouble selling high-end phones these days. I don't see it. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna make my way over because that's where I'm heading right now is to CES. So I'll try to find the booth and make my way and see if I can kind of get a feel of what's so great about this phone versus anything else. So
Okay. So there's the Kodak story.
Oh, ha 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 ha.
Next is Parrot's new in-dash system gives any dumb car Apple or Android brains. What this is basically, it looks kind of like an iPad Mini or a Nexus 7, and looks about 2 or 3 inches deep, and it fits into a typical double space. I'm not sure what the term is for cars, but I know for like pro audio it would be called like a double rack space, but it's pretty uniform. And they say that it'll fit in 90% of cars on the road today, and it would turn your clunker into a smart car. So I think that that's cool. And there are other things in this space, and it probably won't be cheap, but I think this is pretty cool. I think this is something that, based on the price point, and it's not integrated. You know what I mean? It's not like designed specifically for whatever car model. But is this spaghetti against the wall, or is this a thing?
This one is unclear to me because there's a lot of information missing. My big question about this one is they kind of say, hey, you'll be able to use Apple Auto and Android Car or whatever in the world the two the two brands are calling themselves. But I find it surprising that they're actually licensing Apple's car operating system for this. So that surprises me a little, and then giving the user the option which one to use. That makes sense, but it's surprising. I don't know. We'll see. If let's put it this way: if it's real, and if it's a reasonable price, I certainly would strongly consider getting it for my car.
We haven't seen Apple licensing much of anything, right? This would be very unique for them, wouldn't it?
Well, but it's kind of a unique product. Because Apple, currently they're going to be licensing their operating system to auto manufacturers. So is this a case where they're also going to be licensing it to other people for third market, for the add-on market? I don't know. It would be interesting if they did.
Yeah, so we'll see if it's vaporware. There was a great post on The Verge of products that were introduced at CES 2014 that never happened. So I'm sure there'll be a great post a year from now, and this may be one of the things featured in that post. Vaporware extends to the hardware realm. Okay, so Palm could be coming back to life as an Android phone from, is it Alcatel? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but apparently HP, they bought Palm, and they sold WebOS to, I forget, and they sold Palm, the trademark, to I'm sorry,
sold WebOS to HP, which released a couple of things and then sold them off at a fire sale.
Okay, and then we see that I guess the president and CEO of Alcatel has purchased the Palm logo, which makes you think, or an LLC he controls or whatever, holding company. So now there's speculation that Palm is going to come back, or at least the name. Like when Pan Am went out of business, someone bought the Pan Am name to form a regional carrier with the logo. But what do you think? Yet another entry. I had a Palm. Did you have a Palm Pilot or whatever? I did, and I don't have particularly fond memories of it. I guess
I had a Palm 3. I love that thing.
I love my Trio 300. That was my first real smartphone.
Was it a smartphone, or?
If you want to call it, it was a smartphone of its day.
It was kind of like feature plus.
Yeah. No, it did a little more. It was modem and all kinds. It was pretty nice. I liked the color screen, all kinds of stuff.
Okay. So maybe, it was decent hardware. Maybe this will be another. I don't know. I don't know if there's a market for high-end Android phones. The HTC One fizzled.
There's probably is a market for high-end Android phones. The problem is you need to actually give it real features. And I honestly can't figure out what those real features might be.
I think this gets to the reason that we've seen a leveling off in tablet sales because, like, I've not been motivated to buy a new tablet. I mean, I bought a newer one for one of my sales reps, but my my 2012 Nexus 7's fine. The newer ones are a little faster, the screen's better, but it still works, and it still gets the new it still has Lollipop on it. I don't see. I'm not motivated to blow 250. I'd rather get a smartwatch or something. So I think phones are the same way. I haven't upgraded my Note 2. I'm eligible to. I could probably get a free one that's better than this, but my Note 2's fine. Um, I guess are we at a point of stagnation of new features where
I
it's
honestly
we've
think so. I think we're kind of stagnating now, and that's what I want to double check at CES. But I'm thinking we're maxing out on our features and things we can add. I mean, there hasn't been really anything revolutionary in a bit. So
I don't know. I think there's certainly still some space to grow into that developers and consumers haven't quite figured out the use for it yet. I mean, we're still barely scratching the surface when it comes to beacon-like services, for example. And you only are getting those in the most recent of the phones. You don't have that in older versions. But there's very little of that deployed out there yet. Until there's something deployed and until there are devices that make use of it, you're not going to see it.
since phones have become the camcorder du jour. I've seen some innovations that would be neat in phones in camcorders. Just in the last day or so, Panasonic unveiled a camcorder. It looks kind of like a handy cam. It's got a flip out LCD screen. They have two cameras on it, apparently. I was talking to Craig Ship about this, our favorite troll. It's got the main camera, then it's got another camera in the LCD screen. So you could do actually a picture in picture. So it's a de facto video mixer in the camera. What if you could have that feature available in a smartphone camera where you could be at an event and you could be describing the event and be a picture in picture, and the event that you're describing is the main picture. And also we saw a camcorder come out. I don't think it took off, but it had a projector built into it. So there's still room for features that phones could adopt, but again, it could be spaghetti against the wall. It could be niche things, and they could end up with the dud. I don't know. But I hope we're just in a lull and not a plateau of smartphone features, and I suspect that's the case. Okay, so speaking of Alcatel, they've announced they're getting into the smartwatch business in a big way, and they've put out some pictures of very pretty looking smartwatches. I don't know what they feel like. That's a lot of a watch's appeal, the physical hardware. But looks a lot like the Moto 360, the round one. Or obviously the Moto 360 is round. The LG.
Actually, it looks more like the LG G Watch R.
And it doesn't have the little thing at the bottom.
Well, that's why it looks like the G Watch R.
And I guess the way they did that was by going with the bezel.
Right. It's got the G Watch R is the thicker bezel. This one also looks like it's got a thicker portion with the fixed lines on it.
And as is always the case at CES or during CES week, we're discussing to some degree some of these products in the abstract because we don't. I mean, they'll show them and they'll have a prototype, and sometimes they'll have a finished model. Then they might even show the reporters the products, but nobody's allowed to touch any of them. That kind of thing. So the product is capable of getting through the demo, but is not really ready for prime time yet for mass production. So I don't think there's. They said they're going to be very aggressive on pricing. What's the pricing on the GR and the 360? A couple $100 or something, right?
I want to say it's 200. I guess I can.
Something along those lines. So if they say aggressive, I would guess if someone comes out with a round, attractive-looking smartwatch that's like $100, I think it's going to be gangbusters. I think they should have come out with it by Christmas.
The G Watch R is $300. The Moto 360 is $250.
Yeah, so Do we all agree that like $199 would be amazing for an
The
Android Wear
Zen
watch?
Watch is 200.
I don't even know about that one, or I've forgotten.
It's from Asus.
Huh?
It's from Asus or Asus or however they pronounce themselves these days.
You said it's how much?
Can't believe I waited.
200,
Okay.
but it's a square face.
So I think just like with tablets, we're seeing $69 tablets now. They're garbage, but if you only have $70, it's like a $5 pizza. If all you have is $5, you can get a pizza, but it's not, like mine.
Well,
Um,
once again, we get into the question, which apparently is the recurring question of tonight. Um, yeah, you can buy a premium phone, but what are you going, what's premium about it? What are you going to get that's premium?
and what is the market for that premium phone? Um, Other than Craig Shipp, who's going to buy it? A lot of those guys are buying iPhones. I think that the reason Android took off was that they were cheaper. And because clearly the iOS was better than Android until around Ice Cream Sandwich, and now I think the gap is non-existent. It's like circle or square. What's better? I don't know. What you're used to and what your ecosystem is. If you have an iMac and an iPod, then you should get an iPhone. If you use a Windows computer or a Chromebook, then and you're fully integrated into the Google ecosystem, then an Android phone is the logical choice. But I don't think one is far superior to the other as far as features now. They're neck and neck. That wasn't the case, just a couple years ago. Okay, next, the other side of this story is criticism about Android Wear, and there was this one post. And we've hit on this previously, but I don't have an Android device yet, but I just haven't gotten around to getting one. I'm intrigued about the LG, the round one, LGR. But what do you guys? You've been using it for a while, and has anything changed? Is it something that your average consumer should buy and would find functional, or is it still somewhere caught in between beta and
Well,
1.0?
it depends what you mean by functional. It tells time.
So there's that. Well, there's $300 well spent.
So normally people pay thousands for watches, so that's not a big deal. No, I don't know why people tend to bash it, because I don't see anything wrong with it. I have no problem giving it to my grandmother and letting her use it. I think she'd get better use out of that than some of the other stuff on the market. So I don't know why people say it's not ready for prime time. I think it is. I mean, there are things that they could add on to make better, but I mean, I think it's ready, especially with comparison to everything else on the market right now. I'm sure
Well,
Alan's about to throw me a loop.
what do you mean by everything else on the market?
Meaning other Android Wear or other wear devices, other types of watches. It's still the best one out whenever you get done, when you compare it to Pebble and everything else.
I was going to say, so you're comparing it to Pebble and Samsung.
Tizen,
Fitbit.
yeah,
Is it better than Fitbit?
Fitbit.
Is it better
No,
than
not better.
Rolex?
Well, no. Dan, Kadesh, you're laughing, but Dan raises a good question. My mom, to my utter surprise, picked up a Fitbit. And, it just works. There's nothing complicated about it. It just works. Android Wear devices don't just work yet.
Well, it's the old. I mean, it's just like a DVD player. Like I rented the worst movie I've ever seen. Some movies are so bad that they're
Dan, get
worth
to the point.
watching just because they're so bad. You got to see it. This one's worse than that. It's not worth watching. It was the Dinosaur Project about raptors, whatever. Anyway, I get the DVD. I don't get the Blu-ray. Now, my laptop that I'm bringing you guys in here, my Sony laptop, my Sony Vaio or Vaio, however the hell you pronounce it, it's got a Blu-ray player, and it's connected to the computer, obviously. That's how you can see these guys. But I don't use the Blu-ray player because it's so freaking kludgy, and there's errors, and it's a pain in the ass. So I just get the DVD in my older computer. So I'm comparing a DVD player is to Fitbit what Android, the smartwatch. In other words, the Fitbit's like a single-use device, like a toaster.
Here's where
versus-
your comparison falls apart, Dan. Even though you took so long to get to the point.
2 minutes of your life you'll never get back.
There's nothing fundamentally wrong with Android Wear, and Cadeas is right on that point. It does what it's supposed to do. It does it, reasonably well. The problem is there are a lot of, there's two problems. One is it's just not straightforwardly intuitive. And, Fitbit it just works. Android Wear doesn't just work. You need to fiddle with it to get it to do the same sorts of things. And two, and this is the problem with this article, is that people are still comparing it to a smartphone. They seem to think that it's going to be a smartphone on the wrist, or that the first version of, whatever smartphone they used actually worked. They've got very poor memories. You have a thought on that one, Cadeas?
Nope, I don't disagree.
Yeah, so the article, I think what's hysterical though is the article. One of the, halfway through he goes, "Say what you want about the Apple Watch, but Apple is going to get the UI right," and I'm just like, no, they.
Well, first you can't even compare it to Apple. I don't even know why. Apple's not even on the market to even be compared with yet. It's just something thought up, pretty much.
There is a big problem though with UI and intuitiveness. That's the biggest, in my opinion. That's a big distinguisher.
But I don't think
platforms.
there's anything wrong with Android Wear's UI.
I'll give you an example with Lollipop. There's two
I don't think
things
there's
that don't
wrong
make
with
any
Android
sense.
Wear's UI either, Cadeas. I think the problem is that if you're expecting a smartphone, it's not a smartphone, so it's not intuitive from a smartphone's point of view. If you're expecting a watch, it's a little more complicated than a watch, so you don't have the same, the same user experience on it. It's a creature of its own, and people aren't used to thinking of it that way yet. So people are still thinking of, oh, I need to run an app on my watch. No, you don't need to run an app on your watch. And if you read the article, the next thing he says is, similar to now, you kind of want things to just happen when you want them, and it doesn't do that yet. And that's a fair point.
Okay, so let me say this. Here's the problem with Google. This could be a broader topic than I'm limiting it to here.
Yeah, this is why we spend 4 hours every Friday night on this.
Yeah, so here's an example. I wish Google would go to the groundskeeper who mows their freaking lawn and the nice lady or gentleman who washes the dishes at their dining halls, and I wish they would have given them, for example, Lollipop, right? All of a sudden, I'm used to hitting the power button and holding it to get the mute or volume on button or power off, right? With Lollipop, nope, doesn't exist anymore. You hold the volume down button to lower the volume. You used to be able to put your finger down the top of the screen in KitKat and previous iterations of Android to get to not to either turn rotation on or off, so you can lie in bed and read your thing this way without it going to landscape mode. Now I discovered in a post tips about Lollipop, how to get to that setting without having to go to the main thing and hit settings, is you use 2 fingers to scroll down. That's not intuitive. I would never have figured that out. And I'm not a dumbass. They throw shit out there, and they don't take some grandmas and the groundskeeper and the dishwasher and normal people who are not geeks from Stanford and get them to try the product and say, you know what, maybe this should be more intuitive. And so this is not an Android Wear criticism because I haven't used Android Wear, so I'm not going to criticize them any more than I criticize iOS, which I've never used. But I do wish Google would have a better QC team composed of normal human beings, people who watch daytime television, for example, or normal people.
Here's the thing with that approach. If you went with that approach, you would still have feature phones back from the 90s.
I think that's a cop-out. I disagree. I don't think you can. I don't think innovation is an oxymoron. I don't think innovative simplicity is an oxymoron.
Yeah, but that's not what you asked for. if Dan, what you said is you want it, you Google needs to be able to create devices that anyone who's used to the previous 10 years will know how to use. That's essentially what you just said.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying when I worked at Dell Tech Systems in McLean, they had the QC department, quality control, right? And they were ladies, and they smoked, and they talked about the soap operas that they watched, and they tested the software out, and they were totally non-developers.
We're not talking QC, though.
I'm talking about QC in terms of UI, in terms of it.
No,
this doesn't make sense. I can't figure out how to mute the volume. I can't figure out how do I make it so I can read my book at an angle and it doesn't go to landscape mode without clicking 17 things. Oh, you just put your 2 fingers down. I didn't know that.
That's not QC.
The QC department would uncover a poorly intuitive UI.
No, if it's up to QC to discover that, then you're about 6 months too late.
I think QC, I hear you there, because QC typically gets the end user product or close to it, and they evaluate it and they find bugs, whereas this is a design issue. So I get that. But you get what I'm saying too, that Google does this, throw the shit out there. And I love Android.
I do get what you're saying. And it's not just Google. Everyone has this problem. Apple's got this problem too. But at the same time, you can't say that it needs to, you can't change the UI because people will be confused by it. The whole swiping down thing was a radical design.
It was a little thing, but like seriously. And that's the exact reason I went to figure out how to do it, because I go to sleep every night. I use the Google Stories. And I got a quick question here. In the Google app on Android,
there is no such thing as a quick story with you, Dan.
So I was born a poor child in the Philippines.
Get on with that.
Okay, so the Google Stories, I was trying to show my mom and tell her, because she's into quilting and gardening and antiquing and everything I'm not into. And she doesn't have that there, but she has turned Google Now on. How come she doesn't have it? She's got a new, I forget, she's got a new Moto X or something. It's a really nice phone.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
In the Google app, there's stories, and then you can click more stories, and it's basically like an aggregator. It's like Flipboard, but it's just stories you can click to, and it bases it like if you had recently done a search on my Blackstone pizza oven, you might have a story about that. I'm a big Tesla fan, so I see stories about Tesla. It's I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Okay, I see it now.
If you go to if I go the Google app, I'll show for the viewers. I'm gonna put it on the screen here. Oh my God! Now I've just activated S Note, some useless. Sorry, Samsung. I'm sure you're watching, and you can troll me on Twitter now because you don't use Google Plus. Okay, so if you go to the Google app, there's new content available for sites you visited. There's a Tesla Motor story, a Stephen Colbert story, something about cameras. It's like if Flipboard had a whole team just about what Dan likes. There's my weather, 26 degrees. I got no sympathy from Craig in Florida. And then here we go. Stories to read, right? And then you can click more stories. And then it's this personal aggregated source of not just news. Like I said, if my mom's into quilting, it could be a website that has a neat story about quilting, right? It's not just like politics and stuff. But then it goes through all this stuff, and it's great. It's the best reader when you're on the can that exists. But my mom doesn't have this option in her Google app. Do you have any idea why, Alan?
Two guesses. One, did you click the button at the bottom that says Show More, which shows other cards that may not have been natively exposed, and part of it is it may not have enough data yet to start showing them.
So she may have recently turned Google Now on, and it doesn't have enough information yet.
Right.
Okay. But again, the fact that I have two Android experts and developers, and I'm a follower, right? We've been doing this show for over a year. We don't have an answer to that is a problem. And I
just gave you an answer. What do you mean we don't have an answer to that?
We're speculating. We can speculate. You know.
Oh boy.
Anyway, so there. My advice to Google is talk to the guy who mows the lawn and get him to test your shit. Okay, there's an opinion. Oh, Android Gingerbread 2.3 is still it's still a thing, Alan. This is interesting. There's still phones coming out now, and probably in the future with this. I mean, we were just dissing WebOS and Palm. I mean,
There aren't many.
Gingerbread doesn't have a whole lot on.
This article exaggerates a lot.
There were several
Yeah, it's a
articles about
non-story.
this. Is it a non-story? Is it some obscure thing that's going to sell like?
It's not a non-story. I mean, Gingerbread still accounts for 9% of hits against the Play Store.
And
But-
it's still supported. As long as Google's going to support it, they're going to keep making the phones, right? Why are they making? Why are they making the phones? Just because it's cheaper? Because I thought that the newer.
Okay, hang on. Hey, can I answer your question? It's marginally supported. I mean, yeah, it's supported, but we're not talking major support here. Yes, you still get Play services for it, and yes, it still has some features, but increasingly apps aren't working anymore. And new apps aren't being supported nearly as well. So, support is weak at best. As for why phones are coming out, because they were designed 4 years ago, and it's a sunk cost, and, as long as they can keep foisting them off on people like your grandmother, they will. Very few. I don't think there are any new phones coming out with it.
It's funny you say grandmother. My parents, who are great grandparents, they're 76. My mom has a Moto X, the brand new one, and my dad has the newest iPhone. And they each have a computer, and the whole place is networked, and they got a smart TV. It's funny. They have a better phone than I do.
That's why I didn't say your parents. I said your grandmother.
Well, she's deceased, so she had a nice AT&T rented phone. Okay, so go Gingerbread. If nothing else, you have staying power. Okay, there was this opinion post I have mixed feelings about. I'll let Alan kind of describe it a bit, but this guy's pissed off about their thing. It says about the PS4. I think it's their website's called, one of their websites is called PS4 Daily. They had an app for it, and then Google said they shut it down with the title or description may use something you don't own, and clearly they don't own the trademark to PS4, but the PS4 trademark is for a computing device. If Leo Laporte or if I started a show called, PS4 Weekly, and we had weekly news about cool PS4 stuff, new games or whatever, then they would have a tough road to hoe to sue me. They couldn't sue me because I'm clearly not trying to, just like I would not, as long as I was not trying to represent myself as Sony. Now that said, the other side of the coin is when we started this program, Google Plus Week, I had the same concern, and that coupled with the fact that you can't have a plus sign in a URL, I opted to call this Google PLUS, my Friday show, Google Plus Week PLUS, to avoid copyright trademark concerns. And for a long time, I would always start the show, welcome to an unofficial look at, the whatever social network, to clearly make it very clear that we are not an official Google thing. That said, I know I've seen people refer to us as a Google thing. So there's still occasionally someone will make the mistake that Google Plus Week is an official Google property. It's not. But I try to make that very clear. But I have seen that as recently as in the past year, someone made that reference. One of our guests said, Google asked me to do this. I was like, whoa, no, Google didn't. I did. So I kind of see both sides on this, Alan. And the problem is, if this was like a government agency or something, they could sue. But because it's a terms of service issue, Google can do whatever the hell they want, and you don't have a legal recourse. And this guy seems to have a legitimate gripe, but I can kind of see this is the risk you run when you want to do, iPad Today, PS4 Daily, Google Plus Week. You run the risk that someone could pull your stuff. And Leo had this, not so much anymore, but Leo had this as a consistent problem where YouTube would do takedowns when he would do screen shares. They don't handle fair use well because they're so scared because of that damn $1 billion suit from Viacom, and then they went to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act said that if it is fair use, whatever, you're protected and you can let people do whatever they want as long as when someone does a takedown request, you respond to it within X amount of time and you have to show in good faith that you're doing that. I see this as yet another example of the negative ramifications of overreach on the part of copyright holders and those who are trying to stay in business and give people free services and placate the copyright holders. I see overreach on both sides in terms of like complaining and prevention, if that makes any sense. What do you think, Alan?
Well, first of all, I think the guy's exaggerating how tragic this is. This is not, how did he phrase it? You know, this is not an absurd developer policy that is hurting the Android community.
This was clearly a rant. That's why I did the devil's advocate thing.
This is clearly a rant. A legitimate rant, mind you. But
Shades
there are two
of
rants
legitimacy buried within the rant.
There isn't much, but here's the thing. There are two legitimate comments here. One is that Google's enforcement policies are baroque and automated and broken. And that's true. You know, we've gotten hundreds of examples of that. YouTube's a pile of other examples. We've seen plenty more out of the Play Store. And then there's this rant about, there's a specific rant about the trademark, which honestly, I think that's not the problem. That's not the problem. The problem is that when something happens, as with everything with Google, when something happens, you've got no idea who to turn to. There's no way to deal with it. There's no human to call. There's no email address. There's nothing.
And for folks who don't know what Baroque means, the Free Dictionary says extravagant, complex, bizarre, especially in ornamentation. I would add to that opaque, because you don't know exactly why, right? Because they're just, bam, okay, no, yes, yes, no.
But here's the thing, he says, if I was choosing to develop for for what platform developer first, it would be anybody but Android. Really? Because Android is still more permissive than Apple, who likes, nuking applications for who knows? Because they don't tell you.
Yeah, we're not seeing any sort of trend in that direction. I mean, the trend I see most is companies developing Android first, or whichever one is done first. They'll have dual teams that specialize in both platforms. Google does this. Google will be the first. Google is the most prominent company that will develop and release an Android enhancement before, or excuse me, an iOS enhancement before Android, because they say whichever one comes out with it, it's ready for prime time. We'll shoot it up there. And then the other one can, if it works, if it's popular, then they can do it too.
Cadeus, what are your thoughts on this guy's rant?
What's the best way to say it? I think that he is upset. I mean, with reason. He has a valid reason why he's upset. And I think he's kind of just lashing out based on that, saying stuff like making the reference that he would never develop for any other platform. It'll be the last one. All that. He's upset because of the situation, and it's justified. As far as this is them doing a whole bunch of stuff to protect themselves, basically. And I mean, it's you're kind of stuck on both sides. Whether you are him or you are Google, you're kind of stuck, because if Google doesn't do some of these things, they're facing what the heck is this traffic? They're facing a massive lawsuit. But on the other side, he's also suffering because Google is overprotecting themselves. Does that make sense? Do I have to break up?
Absolutely, yeah. That's what they do, okay. Because they're nervous and they don't. You can't call 1-800-Google. So yeah.
We'll take Jamboree instead.
So there, I'm looking for comments. Um, okay, so there we go. By the way, a quick note: I was watching the Sony announcement at CES today, and they showed the new 4K TV, the Bravia. It's zero point 0.2 inches
Hmm.
thick. It's thinner than their phones, and all of the Bravia line are going to support Android TV. So I thought that was cool. They didn't mention Apple TV or
They say
anything.
that stuff all the time, so I want to see some actual TVs with it built in
So,
because they say that stuff all the time.
are you accusing Sony of vaporware, Mr. Kalut?
I don't know who it is, if it's Sony or Google or a combination of both. But I heard how every time CES rolled around, we kept hearing how Google TV is going to be, and Sony was the main one saying it. As a matter of fact, that they're going to have it Google TV in there, and we never seen it. Never seen it. I ain't seen that TV yet with Google TV in it. So now they're saying Android TV, but I want to see the TV now. Show it to me. Give me a model number and give me a date, a release date.
Final word on that topic from Jerry Maguire, or the football player in Jerry Maguire. All right, Mickey, show me the money. All right, so coming up Friday, we'll discuss CES 2015. Anything that really stands out? That I already talked about a couple things that really impressed me. The camera that has a picture-in-picture feature with the little tiny camera in, I guess, like a smartphone quality camera, which is not nothing to sneeze at, in the LCD screen. So I'm thinking, like, as a reporter, you could be at a scene, you could have the main camera focused on, let's say you're doing a Christmas parade or whatever, and you got the main camera on the parade, and then the mayor walks by, and you say, "Hey, here, Mayor, come on over. Let's talk about, good to see you here." And he's like, "Oh yeah, we love the Badgers," or whatever. And you can switch with your finger between the screen of the parade and you and the mayor in your shot, and you're looking at the LCD screen, so you can keep yourself, with the right headroom, right? And then go back to them, go back to you. Basically, it's a video switcher in the camera, so that's cool. So we'll talk about stuff that was really cool at CES. Anything that I don't know how much you guys have followed this. I know Kadesh, you're on your way there, and Kadesh, please, if you do any live streaming or posts about it that I should share, make sure you direct share to me so that I can reshare it. But Alan or Kadesh, anything you guys that has stood out so far? Any predictions? Or there's some exciting stuff already, and it's only day one.
I pay almost no attention whatsoever to CES since I'm not sure I've seen anything from CES actually be a serious product in the past 5 years. How about
Okay.
you, Chris?
Um, I'm gonna hold back on that comment until I until I get there this time. I have to be careful with that comment.
I can believe that.
Okay, so that was a successful topic. All right, next, another thing we'll talk about Friday. This is a big deal. This is a very big deal. Dish has announced Sling TV. We've always said, we talked about cord cutting and the short, medium, long term survival of broadcast television, cable TV as a model, etc. And broadcast television is largely hanging on with the fees that they can extract from cable TV providers. So we've always said that sports is the main thing that is keeping cable television and broadcast television alive. And now we learn that following HBO's announcement that they're going to have a direct-to-consumer model over the internet, and then CBS announcing the same thing, that they're going to go direct to the consumers with an option, now we see ESPN partnering with Dish, where they're going to have the Sling television. And Dish made a point to say it has nothing to do with the Sling box or the Sling whatever. But then you have to ask yourself, why did they use that name? So they're going to offer a $20 bundle, which includes CNN and the Food Network and some other stuff and ESPN for $20 a month without any contract terms. You can just get it for 1 month and then cancel. This is huge, huge, I think. Now, of course, you won't see it on the news because, they don't want to talk about something that threatens them. But I think this is, as Joe Biden would say, a big deal, to paraphrase. What do you think, Alan? I think this is huge. I think this is the biggest thing that's going to open the floodgates for other channels like National Geographic, Discovery, you name it, TLC, the Learning Channel, to go ahead and do a direct internet offering, and when they've been waiting up till now because they were afraid to. But now that you've got Disney-owned, Disney, you're talking Disney Channel, ABC, and ESPN, right? So what do you think? I think this is a big deal for the potential of cord cutting and one day a la carte.
I think it's interesting. It isn't entirely clear to me how many people will go for it because we're talking Dish here. So, so Dish is offering a Sling system which works how? I don't know.
To be clear, you don't have to be a subscriber to Dish Television, right? This is it appears to be a standalone product. You can pay.
I think that Dish makes the majority of their money from international customers because they pretty much have all the international channels from just about everywhere, and I think that they should focus on streaming that stuff first, since that's their main customer base. That's what I would say. As far as us in the States, they minus the few channels that are okay with this, we got a long climb, but this is a good step in the right direction.
So we're pro.
We're pro
Sling
anything
TV.
that will screw over Comcast.
Yeah, exactly. God, I hope that merger. I'm for businesses being able to do what they wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like if Leo wants to buy Google Plus Week for $10 million, I'm for that.
Yeah, and focus.
But all right. So next up is Google's take on. Google takes on AirPlay with Google Cast for audio. So this is pretty exciting. I think it'll work with all LG or with future LG appliances and stuff. But basically, you'll be able to cast audio to various appliances. Is this going to be this seems like an obvious evolution in audio.
How is it different from what we have now?
Yes, your Nexus Q, which holds the door open when the UPS guy brings you packages of things. What do you think, Alan?
No, I'd go to Cadeas first. Or not, since he just muted himself again.
No, I was breaking up, so I didn't think you guys could hear me. I said, now, how is this different from what we have already?
This is different from what we have, since it's essentially a Chromecast built into a speaker.
Yeah, we're talking like those bars you can buy for your television or whatever.
I never was a fan of those, but maybe because it just doesn't fit in my life. Because you already have a Bluetooth speaker, so why would you need this?
Well, because this isn't a Bluetooth speaker. This is streaming. This is basically taking your streaming radio and breaking it out of your phone and putting it into a standalone speaker.
And I get that, but so I have this standalone speaker sitting on the counter, and I'm playing music to it. How is that any different? What type of experience am I getting different from the existing Bluetooth setup with the exact same scenario? I don't see why this is a big deal.
You don't need your phone.
You don't need your phone?
No.
So how are you throwing music to it?
How is music going to my Chromecast? How is video going to my Chromecast?
Okay, so your device sends a command to the speaker, and then the speaker requests everything else from the internet.
Correct.
I don't see this as something that is changing anything. It's not. It's basically. I do that with my phone with Bluetooth now.
Why
I
don't you do that with your phone and your television now?
I can, because I have Chromecast.
But no. But it's not going from your phone to the television. It's your Chromecast is pulling it down directly.
Right.
Okay, what this
Oh,
does...
so you just say, okay. I don't know. I think in my life it doesn't fit, so it doesn't make sense to me. But maybe someone else's life it would make a little more sense.
The big thing about this is that although it ends up relying, it's basically another step into turning your phone into a control device rather than the entire bulk of the processing. So it's not the Android TV model, and I can go into nice rants about that. But it's the model where you've got a bunch of standalone devices, each which take on very specific tasks, and that's where the Internet of Things is going in a household. This is the same level of stuff that the Amazon Echo, whatever the hell that thing is. And we just lost Cadeas again. But, I think this is occupying the same sort of niche that the Amazon Echo is trying to occupy. And I think we'll see it evolve in a very similar way.
The only good thing is so many companies are trying to jump into this space, and so innovations will appear, and so I'm excited about that. And so we're going to see the best ideas rise to the surface. So, okay, next up is this story. I actually donated. I'm not a big donator.
Tell the story first, Dan, and we'll be covering it on Friday. Don't forget.
Yeah, this 22-year-old, he raised. Here's his actual project.
No. Here's the story. The story is this kid figured out the same thing that everyone else has known for ages about how to game the airline reservation system, so that if you want a cheap flight from here to, say, Las Vegas, you book a flight to San Francisco that connects in Las Vegas at a lower price. You get off in San Francisco, and you don't tell anyone. He figured this out. He created a website to do it. All of the airline companies are pissed off and are suing him for breach of contract.
And this is not new. I mean, this technique is like decades old.
Yeah, it's ages old. He's just figured it, and lots of people have even done online ways to do this, and travel agents used to do this all the time. He just made a website that helps you do it easier, and he got in trouble for it.
And so here's the deal. He has a campaign on GoFundMe, which is here, and he's raised as of right now $58,585. And I threw him $10 or something.
This is for his legal fees, right? Because they're suing him.
Yeah, this is for legal fees, and he said that he will donate. He will publicly post every dollar spent for his legal fees to be totally transparent, and that any leftover money will be donated to a charity. He's not sure what charity, but if any of the donors want to suggest one, he'll listen, right? So this is to gear up for his fight. So United Airlines and Orbitz, and I guess they have like a special partnership or something, are pissed off because they're encouraging this, and their argument is it's basically a terms of service deal. So he is violating the terms of service by scraping their website for a competitive product. So legally they may be correct, but he insists he's correct. And this is the story I found. There are many stories on this. This was from CNN Money. There's the kid. He's 22 years old, young kid.
So Dan, we'll be covering this on Friday.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right. Any final Android week thoughts, Alan?
No. Oh yeah. Go to Cadeas first. Let me see if I can go to Cadeas first.
You got any? While Alan gets his Nexus Q ready.
All right. I don't really have any final thoughts. Yeah. So hopefully Alan will figure out what he needs to figure out pretty quickly.
Ha! Huh. Oh dear.
How about this as a final thought? we need our cell phone service providers to put up more towers so we can have some better performance when we're mobile. This is ridiculous.
You should do a
What I'm
GoFundMe project for that. All right,
Yes.
so I posted a video today, and you should check it out. It's on my stream. Today is January 5th, 2015. If you're watching later on, you want to find this, or just Google Dan McDermott and Google Glass, Jason Salas, Alan Furstenberg, and you'll find it. So, Alan, tell us what news you might have today.
I have a book. I mean, it's like actually a printed book that has my name on the front cover.
That's pretty badass.
So, Designing and Developing for Google Glass is now available in Dead Tree version. Get it today. I've even been told you can get it from Amazon.com. So it's out there. Go to your local bookstore, order a copy.
It's Designing and Developing for Google Glass. It's available on Amazon.com. It's also available at O'Reilly.com.
Shop.O'Reilly.com.
O'Reilly.com. And support Alan, the co-author, and Jason Salas, who's a friend of the program. He's been on many times. And it's awesome. I bought it, and it's actually less expensive now. It's on sale than when I bought it. I really got hosed.
You got it on sale, Dan. You got it like 50% off.
Did I?
Yeah.
I thought I paid like $50.
You don't even know what he spent.
I don't know. It's dollars. It's Benjamins, man. I got the Benjamins, baby. All right. So anyway, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Thank you for all of your comments. Thank you for your views. And we've been gone for a couple weeks. I think 2, 3, something like that.
Like, I don't know, like a month. There hasn't been any news.
Yeah, we've been gone since like last year. Oh my God. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate it. Please comment and subscribe and buy Alan's book.
Oh my God.
And I swear to God, I'm waiting for the day when Cadeas is in a freaking car accident on the show.
No, I'm raging about the traffic. I hate the. Go ahead and end the show. I hate the 91. Let's just say that.
All right, so here's to the evil 91, whatever the hell that is. I guess it's a road. Anyway, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. I'm Dan McDermott. Please check out our other program, Google Plus Week, which is every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific on Google Plus and YouTube Live. 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, Google Plus Week. Search for it. You'll find it. This program is every Monday night at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on Google Plus and YouTube Live. We discuss all things Android. So thank you very much. We appreciate your patience for these last couple weeks when we were celebrating our holidays, and we wish you all the best and a great and joyous 2015. It's great to be back with you in a new year. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next Our Android Week.
I know one